The rain tapped gently against my window, a soft rhythm that matched the slow rise and fall of my breath. The dim glow of my bedside lamp cast long shadows across the walls, stretching over the mess of textbooks, clothes, and half-empty water bottles scattered across my room. I had told myself I'd clean up before the weekend. Now it was Friday night, and the promise was already broken. I rolled onto my back, staring at the ceiling. The house was quiet, too quiet. Mom and Dad had left for the weekend. Something about a reunion with old college friends. My older brother, Caleb, was supposed to be home, but his car hadn't been in the driveway when I got back from class. Typical. I was used to being alone, used to the silence. But tonight, it felt different. He hadn't mentioned going out, and his room, just across the hall, had been eerily undisturbed. His shoes were still by the door, his jacket still hanging on the hook. But his keys were missing. Maybe he left in a rush. Maybe I was overthinking. I sighed, sitting up, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. It was barely past 11, but the weight of exhaustion clung to me like a second skin. I reached for my phone, scrolling through the usual notifications. Nothing interesting. No messages from Caleb, but one from someone else. Noah, hey, I'm coming over. Caleb said I could crash at your place tonight. My stomach tightened, fingers freezing over the screen. Noah, Caleb's best friend. Noah had been a constant in our house for as long as I could remember. Late-night video games, weekend trips, endless inside jokes I never quite understood. He was part of the furniture, woven into the background of my childhood like an extra sibling, except he never felt like one. Not to me. I had spent years pretending I didn't notice the way he moved, the way his laugh sounded deeper late at night when he was tired, the way his eyes lingered just a second too long when he thought no one was looking. It was easier to ignore, easier to shove the thoughts away before they could become something dangerous. But now, he was coming over, staying the night, and Caleb wasn't here. A knot formed in my throat. I told myself it was fine, that nothing would happen, that it was just Noah. The doorbell rang, and suddenly, the house didn't feel so quiet anymore. I hesitated for a second before pushing myself off the bed. My legs felt unsteady as I made my way downstairs, each step amplifying the sound of my pulse in my ears. The rain had picked up, drumming against the roof in a restless rhythm, mirroring the unease settling in my chest. The doorbell rang again. I swallowed hard and opened the door. Noah stood there, soaked from the rain, his hoodie clinging to his frame. His dark hair was damp, sticking to his forehead, and his usual smirk was replaced by something unreadable. He looked tired, maybe even nervous. "Hey," he said, his voice lower than usual. I forced a small smile. "Hey, come in." He stepped inside, shaking out his hoodie before pulling it over his head, leaving him in a fitted t-shirt that made it difficult to focus on anything else. I turned away quickly, pretending to fix the lock on the door even though nothing was wrong with it. "Where's Caleb?" he asked, glancing around the quiet house. "Not here," I muttered. He didn't say where he went. Noah frowned. "That's weird. He told me to crash here tonight. I figured he'd be around." I shrugged, pretending it wasn't a big deal. "You can still stay. He'll probably show up eventually." "Yeah," Noah said, but he didn't sound convinced. The air between us felt heavier than it should. I led him toward the living room, where the dim glow from a single lamp cast soft shadows over the furniture. I noticed the way he rubbed his arms, still cold from the rain. "You want a towel or something?" I asked. He gave me a small smile. "You always looking out for me, huh?" I felt my face warm and quickly turned toward the hallway. "I'll grab one." I found a towel in the bathroom, gripping it a little too tightly before heading back. When I handed it to him, our fingers brushed just a second too long. My breath hitched. He didn't move away. "Thanks," he murmured, voice softer now. I cleared my throat, stepping back, trying to will away the heat creeping up my neck. Want something to drink? Nah, I'm good, he said, rubbing the towel over his hair. I'm more interested in knowing why you're acting so weird. I froze. I'm not. You are, he said, tilting his head slightly, studying me. You've been weird around me for a while now. I forced a laugh. You're imagining things. Noah's lips quirked into something close to a smirk, but there was something else in his eyes, something careful. Am I? A long silence stretched between us. I needed to change the subject. Fast. You hungry? We have leftover pizza or... I can't stop thinking about something, he interrupted. I swallowed hard. What? He hesitated, as if debating whether or not to say it. Then, finally, you ever feel like someone knows you better than you know yourself? My pulse quickened. What are you talking about? Noah let out a breath, rubbing the back of his neck. Forget it. I'm just tired, but I couldn't forget it, because I knew what he wasn't saying. And suddenly, the living room felt too small, the air too thick. I'll set up the couch, I said quickly, needing to put space between us. Noah watched me for a long moment before nodding. Yeah, okay. I grabbed a blanket from the closet and threw it onto the couch, my hands moving too fast, too eager to distract myself. Noah stood nearby, watching but saying nothing. Here, I muttered, tossing him a pillow. He caught it effortlessly but didn't move. You're nervous. I forced a laugh. Why would I be nervous? Noah stepped closer. You tell me. My breath caught. He was too close now, the heat of his body cutting through the space between us. My mind screamed at me to move, to make a joke, to do anything that would break this moment. But I didn't. I couldn't. His gaze flickered to my lips, just for a second, before he turned away abruptly, running a hand through his still damp hair. Never mind. Good night, man. He lay down on the couch, turning his back to me. I stood there for a moment, my thoughts in chaos. Then, without another word, I turned and went upstairs. Lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling, my heart refusing to slow down. Noah knew. I knew he knew. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if that terrified me or if it was exactly what I wanted. The house was quiet, but I couldn't sleep. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain as it tapped against the window. My mind wouldn't stop replaying the moment in the living room. The way Noah looked at me, the way he hesitated, the way he stepped closer but pulled away at the last second. He knows. The thought sent a shiver through me, not because it scared me, but because I didn't know what came next. I turned onto my side, squeezing my eyes shut, trying to force my thoughts into silence. But then, a sound, the faint creak of the wooden stairs. I froze. The floor outside my bedroom door groaned under a slow, deliberate step. My pulse spiked. Then, soft knocking. My throat tightened. I knew who it was before I even reached for the handle. I opened the door. Noah stood there, barefoot, his shirt slightly wrinkled like he had been tossing and turning on the couch. His hair was still damp from the rain earlier, strands sticking to his forehead, but it was his eyes that got me, dark, unreadable, filled with something I couldn't name. We didn't speak. He stepped inside, moving past me, slow and careful, like he was testing the air. I closed the door behind him, my fingers lingering on the handle. I should say something. I should ask him what he was doing, why he was here, why he looked at me like that. But I couldn't. The silence between us stretched, thick with something unspoken. Then, finally, Noah sighed, running a hand through his hair. I couldn't sleep. I swallowed. Me neither. His gaze flickered to me, searching. He looked like he wanted to say something, but instead, he just nodded. Then, hesitantly, he walked toward my bed and sat down at the edge. I stood frozen near the door. You gonna sit? He asked, voice quiet. I hesitated before moving toward the bed, keeping just enough distance between us to feel like I had control. Noah exhaled, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. This is weird, isn't it? I let out a dry laugh. A little. He nodded, staring at the floor. I was thinking about earlier. My stomach twisted. Yeah, his jaw tightened. I know I've been acting different. I didn't move. I noticed. He let out a humorless laugh. Yeah, bet you did. A long pause. Then, finally, he turned to face me. I wasn't lying downstairs. I swallowed hard. About what? He hesitated. About feeling like someone knows me better than I know myself. The air in the room shifted. I felt it like a slow-moving current, pulling me in, suffocating and electrifying all at once. Noah's gaze dropped to my hands, clenched together in my lap, then flickered back up to my face. You know, don't you? He asked. My breath caught. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. His expression tightened, his fingers gripping the edge of my comforter, like he needed something to anchor himself. I don't know how to say it, he admitted. I could hear my own heartbeat, loud and erratic in my ears. You don't have to, I whispered. Noah's lips parted slightly, as if caught between words. Then, slowly, cautiously, he reached out. His fingertips brushed against mine, the lightest touch, like he wasn't sure if he had permission. I didn't pull away. The world outside the window was dark, the storm quieting, the house still and silent. Noah's hand moved, deliberate now, pressing against my palm, threading his fingers between mine. A slow inhale, a moment suspended in time. Then he let go. He stood up quickly, running a hand through his hair, turning away. Shit. My heart lurched. Noah, I shouldn't have done that, he muttered, voice strained. I stood too. Why not? His jaw clenched. Because I'm not. But he didn't finish. Because he was. I could see it in his face. The fear, the want, the truth. He turned to the door, his fingers flexing like he was fighting some invisible battle. I should go. But he didn't move, and neither did I. The air between us was charged, a thread stretched too tight, too fragile. Then, barely above a whisper, I said, Stay. Noah's shoulders tensed. For a long moment he just stood there, his back to me. And then, slowly, deliberately, he turned around. Our eyes met, and the moment held. The next morning, the house felt different. Not physically, nothing had changed. The furniture was the same. The walls still carried the soft scent of morning rain, and the quiet hum of the world waking up remained untouched. But something between us had shifted, something that neither of us knew how to handle. I had barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, my mind replayed the way Noah's fingers had fit between mine, the way his breath had hitched just before he pulled away, the way his entire body screamed that he wanted to stay. But he didn't. Now, the sound of movement in the kitchen pulled me from my thoughts. I hesitated before stepping out of my room, the cool wooden floor beneath my feet doing nothing to steady my nerves. As I walked down the stairs, I caught sight of him, standing at the kitchen counter, pouring coffee like nothing had happened, like last night hadn't turned my world upside down. Morning, I said, my voice rough. He glanced over his shoulder, his expression unreadable. Morning, that was it. No hesitation, no nervous energy, just a single word spoken like we were the same people we had been yesterday. But we weren't. I pulled out a chair at the kitchen table, watching him as he leaned against the counter, staring into his coffee like it held the answers he needed. The silence stretched. Finally, I exhaled. Are we going to talk about it? Noah's grip on the mug tightened slightly, a flicker of tension crossing his face before he masked it with a casual shrug. Talk about what? I swallowed the frustration, creeping into my throat. Come on, Noah. He didn't look at me. Nothing happened. His voice was calm, too calm, like he was trying to convince himself as much as me. I let out a dry laugh. Right, so I just imagined it. He finally met my gaze, his expression guarded. I don't know what you want me to say. I want the truth. His jaw tightened, but he didn't say anything. I pushed forward. Last night, you came to my room. You! I faltered, suddenly unsure how to put words to what had happened, to what almost happened. Noah exhaled, running a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. It was a mistake. A sharp sting cut through my chest. He must have seen something shift in my expression, because his own hardened, like he was bracing himself. I shook my head. That's not true. Noah scoffed, shaking his head like I was being ridiculous. I don't. He cut himself off, exhaling sharply. Then, softer this time, I can't. I clenched my fists under the table. Can't or won't. He hesitated. That was all the answer I needed. I stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. You know what? Forget it. Noah blinked, caught off guard. Forget it. I let out a humorless laugh. Yeah, I mean, if nothing happened, then why am I even wasting my time? I turned to leave, but before I could take a step, he grabbed my wrist. Not hard, just enough to stop me. A flash of last night rushed back, his fingers in mine, the way he hesitated but didn't let go. I met his eyes, and for the first time, I saw it. Fear, not disgust, not regret, just fear. But I was tired of pretending, tired of waiting for him to catch up to what we both already knew. So, I did the only thing I could. I pulled my wrist free, and I walked away. Noah didn't stop me this time. The house felt empty when I walked away, but I knew Noah was still there. I could feel his presence in the kitchen, feel the weight of his eyes on my back even as I climbed the stairs, even as I reached my room and shut the door behind me, even as I pressed my forehead against the wood and exhaled a shaky breath. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I had imagined 100 different ways last night could have ended. Maybe he would have stayed. Maybe he would have admitted something, anything. Maybe we would have finally stopped dancing around the truth. But instead, we were right back where we started. No, worse. Because now I knew he felt it too. Now, he couldn't hide behind jokes or casual shrugs. He had touched me, looked at me in a way that tore down every lie he had ever told himself. And still, he ran. I paced the room, my hands clenched into fists, frustration boiling under my skin. I should have pushed harder. I should have made him say it out loud. But the moment he said it was a mistake, something inside me broke. I wasn't going to be a secret. I wasn't going to spend months, years waiting for him to be ready. I collapsed onto my bed, staring at the ceiling, my thoughts spiraling. Then, a knock at the door. My chest tightened. I didn't move. Another knock. Softer this time. Hesitant. I swallowed. Noah. I should ignore him. I should let him sit with his silence, with the weight of what he had done. But my body betrayed me. Before I could stop myself, I was standing. Before I could think it through, I was opening the door. Noah stood there, hands shoved into the pockets of his hoodie, his shoulders tense. His eyes met mine, and in them, I saw everything I wanted to hear but knew he wouldn't say. Not yet, but maybe someday. He took a breath, his lips parting like he was about to speak. I waited. He hesitated. Then, I should go. And just like that, the moment was gone. I didn't stop him as he turned, as he walked down the hall. I didn't call after him, didn't chase him. But as I stood in the doorway, watching him leave, one thought ran through my mind. Was this really the end? Or just the beginning?